Good day to you, people of the interweb, and today I've got what I believe is the world's first transgender transforming robot. Yes, got my latest KTRT bot coming. Now, this figure is kind of unusual because depending on how you perceive it, it can be either a homage to a world famous championship winning sporting hero, right? Or, you know, it's a cross-dressing robot toy. So, depends on how you look at it. It's very unusual. I am, of course, referring to a figure from the Turning Mecard Junior Line, which I've bought. They've bought a couple of figures out, and this is one of the figures I saw, and I thought, oh, I quite like the look of that. I've now got it, and here it is. Say good day, hello, and willkommen to Turning Mecard Junior Shuma. Now, the first thing I want to say, this reference to the World Championship sporting hero, it's a red car. It's a chunky red car that kind of looks like a Formula 1 car. You know, it's got the spoiler on the front, it's got the cockpit, the air scoop in the top, rear spoiler, big wheels at the back, small wheels at the front, side pods. Yeah, it's a really sort of stunted, chunky, very version of a Formula 1 car, but it's trying to homage a Formula 1 car nevertheless, and it's red. Alright? So what Formula 1 team races in the colour red? Ferrari. Okay, it's not exactly based on a Ferrari car, but it's a red Formula 1-ish car. Now, the name, Shuma. Name me one World Championship Formula 1 driver who raced for Ferrari. Michael Schumacher. Now, I reckon that this toy is a homage to Michael Schumacher and Ferrari. But they're not shouting about it. It's just like a very sort of discreet homage to Michael Schumacher and Ferrari, because it's a red Formula 1 car and his name is Shuma. Right, that's the first thing about it that's kind of unusual, shall we say. Anyway, let's have a quick look at the toy. It's a Red Star Formula 1 car. Obviously, it's got visible hand syndrome out the back. You look underneath and, yeah, robot parts. Pinned wheels. It rolls exceedingly well. Made out of the usual very shiny Korean plastic that's quite hard and durable, yet seems to be scratch resistant, you know, for normal play patterns. Yeah, it's very chunky. Now, there's not much more you can say about the car mode apart from it's a red Formula 1-ish car and its name's Schumacher, and possibly it's a homage to Michael Schumacher. But there we go. Paint apps, obviously it's got some little white bits on it. It's got yellow bits on the wheels, black cockpit. So yeah, it's not too bad. Looks great. Now, before we go any further, obviously a little bit of backstory about the show. I haven't really watched much of the Turning Mecard cartoon series. I mean, they've done 2 seasons now. They've got the 2nd season, which is called Turning Mecard W. And I haven't really watched that much of it. And I don't know much about the lore of the series, but I do know it has kind of an interesting thing. It isn't like good guys and bad guys, because you've got 3 different teams that are not necessarily good or evil, but they're all fighting for their own relevant cause, and, you know, they're battling against each other. And Mecard, if I haven't explained it before, it's a game, a card game in Korea. You get these little cards, and you get these little tiny cars. You lay the cards face down on the ground, and you roll the cards over them, and then there's a little magnet in the car or the card, and when the card goes over, it springs open and flips up the card, and then it displays one of 3 attributes on the card. And then you pick an attribute, say red, green or blue or whatever colours they are. They stand for various things. I'm not sure what they stand for. And then you compare that, you know, both players each have a turn, and then you compare the stats, and whoever's got the highest figure wins the round, and it's 1 round out of 3. And there you go. It's kind of like based on tic-tac-toe, or no, rock, paper, scissors, the way it works. But the little figures, they're really tiny, about size of a little bit bigger than Matchbox cars, but they have a spring-loaded mechanism where they spring open into a variety of different beasts. Now in the show, these things are called Mechanimals, and you get these kids, these Korean kids, who come across these little sentient cars which can drive around and talk, and when they talk, the little headlights flash. And then they come up to them, and then they get together, and then eventually they get the cards, and then when they initiate a battle, they get transported to this alternate dimension where it's like a desert or a beach or a valley or something, and then they have these battles where they, using the cards, they call out certain moves, and then the Mechanimals transform into these huge, great, robotic beasts and creatures and robots, and they do battle with each other. So yeah, anyway, Shuma is one of those, and I did a bit of research last night just to get some of my facts straight about what I was going to say about this guy. And Shuma, I think he debuts in episode 10. I'm going to see if I can remember. I'll put a link to the episode down below. And he makes his debut at 16 minutes and 48 seconds. So if you skip forward to that point, you'll see him launch, and then he has got this thing that because he's a Formula 1 car, his thing is speed, and he can move very fast. And he's got rather interesting legs, as you'll see in the robot mode, and he likes going around doing like flying kicks and stuff like that. So that's his thing. He doesn't necessarily use weapons. His weapon is speed and manoeuvrability when he's fighting. So yeah, and enough about the robot and the lore. Let's talk about the car. Now, to transform this thing, it's, as with the other Turning Mecard Juniors, they're very simple, very intuitive to transform. This guy's got a couple of clearance issues, especially on the arms, trying to squeeze them past various bits. But anyway, so to start off with, you have these little bits on the side, which you fold down. Then you go underneath, and then you've got the feet, and you unclip them from there, and then pull them down. Then take this bit, fold it back. Now there's a little tabbing port there and a little slot there. You bring it round on a double hinge and then peg it in together. Now it doesn't peg in particularly securely, you only have to knock it and it comes disconnected, but there we go. Pull up these side panels. You then have to get the arms, and they are sort of clipped in underneath. You have to kind of unclip them, and then you have to maneuver them past these wheels. There's not much clearance for doing that, but anyway, done that. Then you sort of straighten the arms as best you can, and then the legs, straighten out the feet, and then obviously I've got his head turned a little bit, but there we go. And there we have, straighten his head up, and there we have Shuma in his robot mode. And now, as I was saying about this being a transgender robot, the thing that gets me about this, let's move the arms out of the way, is his legs. I mean, look at this. He's got sheer legs, very thin, long legs, massive, massive, long, thin shins, short thighs, big, massive tyres hanging off his thighs, very dainty little feet. And I think he's he kind of looks like a cross-dressing robot, because he's got like a very sort of male bit on top, and then he's got like fembot legs. So is this the first transgender robot? I mean, in the show, when he transforms, you see these little bits sort of pop out sides of his legs, and they make them look a little bit wider than they actually are. But on this particular toy, I think because of the way they engineered it, they had to keep the legs nice and thin, and it gives him this very interesting aesthetic. I mean, I would have preferred them to have had the knees a bit lower down, perhaps, and made the legs a little chunkier. But there we go. Now, obviously, because he's got the wheels here, it does hamper the movement of the arms. You have to have them sort of tilt. If you have them straight down, you have to have them tilted slightly forward, or sort of bent at an angle. So it does. He has got issues posing his arms because of clearance with these wheels. But as for articulation, he's not too bad. He's got a head swivel. He's got universal joints on his shoulders. They are kind of ratcheted to go out. He can do a T-pose. And then they're ratcheted backwards and forwards. But because you've got these bits here, lots of stuff that gets in the way, it hampers the motion of the arms. It has got 90-degree elbows, no bicep swivels. So it's kind of difficult to get him posed up top. Now, one thing this guy does have is he's got an ab crunch. It's part of his transformation, but there you go, look. This bit here, his waist hinges forward. So that totally works as an ab crunch, but he hasn't got no waist swivel. Now, again, because of these big chunky wheels hanging off his hips, it does hamper the articulation on his legs. Gets a decent spread, legs go out to there, but again they can't go any further because of these. Now he can kick himself in the head, or as soon as he's got a lovely set of pins, he can do the can-can, you know. He can do the can-can if he wants to. Yeah, so but you got the big spoiler hanging off his arse, so no, that limits the articulation go backwards. And then his knees are very high up. He's got very, very long thin shins, but you can get 90-degree out of the knees. And then the feet, very dainty little feet, but they have compensated for it by giving him these elongated heel spurs, because he does have a lot of kibble hanging off his back, and if it wasn't for that, actually they need to fold forward, don't they? So he'd be falling over, but they have kind of compensated for that. Now I'm surprised. As soon as this thing's got, you know, very effeminate legs, why they didn't give him high heels? Why you didn't have an extra joint where you could bend the heels down and have him, you know, walking on high heels? That would have been something. Yeah. So, he's very unusual. Very unusual. Decent paint apps in robot mode. It's got, you know, some nice silver bits here. He's got at least 3 different kinds of paint on his head. He's got white, yellow and black. He's got yellow bits here, white bits there. When you look at the CGI model, there's a few extra detailing bits on his chest. But, I mean, if you look at on the side of the box, there's his CGI model. You can see he's got like some extra bits there. Obviously, looking at the box, it's the typical junior box. It's got the little hook at the top so you can hang it up. Very thin plastic sort of clam in the middle to hold the figure, and lots of artwork on all sides. Now, do a quick size comparison. Let's put him next to Classic's Dirge, and you can see he's a little bit bigger than a normal Classics figure, or like a deluxe figure. But he's all right. Very unusual Bart, like I said, because of the aesthetic on the legs. I'm not sure whether he's trying to say something with his very sheer legs. He's definitely a male character, because when you listen to his voice in the show, he's definitely a male. It's probably just me, reading too much into this figure, but he does have a very unusual proportions and aesthetic, which makes me think of something else. So anyway, that is my review, such as it is, of Turning Mecard Junior Shuma. He's a very unusual figure. You can get him off eBay for, well, I paid just over 20 quid for this. They are kind of expensive. They're just, slightly bigger than a deluxe figure. Very simple articulation. They've basically just got shoulders, elbows, hips and knees. They do have head swivels. Now, I have done a couple of repaints of some of the other figures. I mean, I've got HG Tero, the green dragon thing. They've done a mini version, a junior version of that in white. I'm not too sure whether I want to get that. They have done a black repaint of Phoenix in the HG version, and if they do a black repaint of they have done a mould for the junior Phoenix, and if they do a black repaint of that, I'll be all over it. But got this guy for now. He's pretty interesting, he's pretty cool. I'm glad I got him. Another KTRT bot for the course, and I hope you've enjoyed this review, such as it is. Very unusual, but that's all I got to say for today. I hope you're all doing well, and I will catch you all next time. Ta-da.